Morning and welcome to Morning Pulse, the pulse of Nigerian politics right here on Active Citizens. My name is Sharon Edem-Chukwu, and joining me live in the studio I have with me Ms. Genevieve Okeke. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Sharon. How are you doing?
I am very well.
You look beautiful.
And so do you.
Thank
so nice
you.
to have you back here in the studio with
Thank
us.
you.
Also joining us via Zoom for the very first time, we have Mr. Chinedu Ekwoba, our political analyst. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning, Sharon. You too.
All right. And also for the first time this year, we have joining us our analyst as well, Mr. Oladimiji Oluwafemi. Good morning, sir. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning to you, Sharon. Good morning to everyone in the studio.
Welcome, sir. We're going straight to the stories that we have for today. Now, the African Democratic Congress is questioning the federal government's silence on the political crisis in Venezuela. According to the party, Nigeria has a long history of speaking up on democracy and human rights, especially in regions facing instability. ADC says the current quiet stance raises concerns about Nigeria's foreign policy direction and moral leadership in global affairs. Now, supporters of the government argue that diplomacy requires caution and that Nigeria must prioritize its own economic and security challenges. They say not every global crisis requires public statements and that behind-the-scenes engagement may be ongoing. And we move over to the situation and the scene we saw yesterday where the ousted Venezuelan president and his wife were being transported to a courthouse in New York. The move follows international legal actions tied to alleged crimes committed while in office. U.S. authorities say the case is about accountability and justice beyond borders, and supporters of the former leader insist the charges are politically motivated. They argue that powerful countries often use courts to settle political disputes. Now we are going straight to the video from the other day where we are seeing the ousted Venezuelan president and his wife being led in handcuffs to the New York court. Let's have a look.
Nicolas Maduro departing, coming out of that helicopter. We're going to see his wife probably depart right after that. Just remarkable to see this. It was just the early morning hours of Saturday that this man and his wife were running a country of more than 30 million people. And then that dramatic and violent U.S. military operation taking place has now captured them and now making their way with their hands bound in those tan jumpsuits to be facing a federal judge. Now seeing Nicolas Maduro departing, coming out of that helicopter. We're going to see his wife probably depart right after that. Just remarkable to see this. It was just the early morning hours of Saturday that this man and his wife were running a country of more than 30 million people. And then that dramatic and violent U.S. military operation taking place has now captured them and now making their way with their hands bound in those tan jumpsuits to be facing a federal judge.
Down yesterday when the ousted Venezuelan president and his wife were being escorted to the court. But anyways, before we proceed, let's invite our analyst and co-host as well in person of Ifoma Oji. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, everyone in the studio. Good morning, Nigerians.
Welcome, welcome. It's nice to have you on the other side. Welcome to the show.
Yes. I'm pleased to be here.
All right. Anyways, we're discussing the Venezuelan president and him being escorted to the New York court. But we'll have a look at another video where Donald Trump was addressing the press, and then we'll return this to the studio.
Only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, the safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
Going to war against Venezuela?
I doubt it. I don't think so, but they've been treating us very badly, not only on drugs. They've dumped hundreds of thousands of people into our country that we didn't want. People from prisons, they emptied their prisons into our country. They also, if you take a look, they emptied their mental institutions and their insane asylums into the United States of America because Joe Biden was the worst president in the history of our country.
But I just want to talk about the scale of the military operation around Venezuela, because it has been described to 60 Minutes as using a blowtorch to cook an egg. Is this about stopping?
Well, I don't think so. Look.
Is it about, let me ask you though, is it about stopping narcotics, or is this about getting rid of President Maduro?
No, this is about many things. This is a country that allowed their prisons to be emptied into our country. To me, that would be almost number one, because we have other countries. Look, Mexico has been very bad to us in terms of drugs, okay? Very bad. We have a closed border right now. You probably noticed that for 5 months in a row, they have zero, think of this, zero people coming into our country through our southern border.
On Venezuela in particular, are Maduro's days as president numbered?
I would say, yeah. I think so, yeah.
And this issue of potential land strikes in Venezuela, is that true?
I don't tell you that. I mean, I'm not saying it's true or untrue, but I wouldn't.
Why would
I
we
wouldn't
do
be
it?
inclined to say that I would do that, but because I don't talk to a reporter about whether or not I'm going to strike.
All right, we just saw that video and it's a whole lot, but we're going to take it bit by bit. And I'm starting with you, Mr. Oladimeji now. Just explain to the viewers, what are really the main charges facing the ousted Venezuelan president?
Good morning, Nigerians, once again. Before I would even come to just mentioning the charges, because everybody is aware of that singular charge that will headline the charges that Maduro will be slapped with. But first, let us examine Maduro's foray into politics and how he became leader. And I'm just going to do that within 1 minute.
All right.
I don't know how many of us know that Maduro used to be a bus driver in Venezuela, Caracas. He used to be a bus driver, and just like Oshiomhole here too, he used to be a union leader in his country. And he was taken under the wings of Hugo Chavez, who was the president at that time. And first he became, under Hugo? Eventually he became vice president under Hugo. And when Hugo died, he won election, but under some acrimonious situation, he became president, and that was let go. When he got re-elected in 2024, was the camel that broke. It was the load that broke the camel's back, rather, for lack of better words. He got into power via all kind of means. So, like our own situation, you can just describe it as being snatched and ran away with. So we snatched the government and ran away with it at that time. And just shortly when he did all of that, the economy of Venezuela plummeted straight. 80% downflow of their GDP. 80%. Hyperinflation and everything, and 7 million Venezuela Japan from the country just immediately. So why I try to say that is because it replicates succinctly our own kind of situation in Nigeria. And to cap it up, it made Venezuela a courtyard for narcotic lords, and he became a part of that ring himself. So Venezuela became a route through Colombia and what have you for drugs. And you know, Americans would not want the proliferation of their society with drugs, and they've been victims. Their citizens have been victims of these drug related issues, meds and co. And they warned the guy, Mr. Man, you are doing this, you are doing that. And you remember that famous speech he gave from his palace? He said, come and get me.
Yes.
He played the big boys. America went to get him. He had no answers for them. And they brought him within 5 minutes. 4 minutes, 39 seconds was the operation within his palace, and he was airlifted out of Caracas. Now, in the ICC, he would be slapped with drug cartel related crimes and injustice to humanity, because the guy had, unalived thousands of Venezuelans and had sent thousands, if not millions, into exile. So Maduro will be facing two penalties that I can categorically speak about: drug-related situation, and in the ICC, he will be facing abuse for humanity.
Wow. I like the fact that you make that clear, so that even people who are just hearing about this for the first time can follow up on the story as it proceeds. Now, I'm coming to you, Mr. Chidi, right? This case that is being held in the United States court, a lot of people have come out to question why this case is being tried in the US court, and people are asking, what does this say about, the reach of international justice? Mr. Chidi, did you get that question? All right, I'm going to be throwing the question to you, Mr. Foma. Did you get the question?
No, retreat, please.
All right. People are just asking, why is this particular case being tried in the United States court? And they're asking, what does this mean about the reach of international justice?
Okay, I might not really know about the laws guiding this arrest, but at the same time, from a layman's understanding, I believe he was arrested, abducted from his country and taken to US, and he's currently in US detention. So all the charges against him, he will be arraigned in court in US States. That is where he's being held in detention. So that's what I have to say about this. But let me just make a quick comment about what's going on. This thing that is happening or happened in Venezuela is not about how power is exercised. It's not just about how power is exercised globally. What we are seeing here is Venezuela is just a test of how power nations enforce their interest in a weakened state. Now, Maduro has been leading or governing the state, that is Venezuelans, for over 12 years. And I believe Mr. Oladimeji mentioned what happened in 2024 when his opposition won the election, and how he sent his opposition to exile and assumed office, which, according to Mr. Sacramento, crippled their economy to the ground. Now, this whole thing didn't just come up because there's a lot of charges against Maduro. It came up because of a lot of violations. It came up because of a lot of decent voices being silent. It came up because of a lot of crippling of economy. And when you have a situation whereby you cannot provide for your country, you cannot cater for your country, it creates that hole for other countries to penetrate into your country's sovereignty. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying.
All right, so I want
to just oppose it to Nigeria. Right. You know exactly what is going on in Nigeria, the leadership crisis, how the voice says in Nigeria are being silenced. Everything started from, it started step by step. And to be honest with you, I will not be surprised surprised if this happens in Nigeria, because in 25th December, Trump kind of sent a gift package to the terrorists in Nigeria. When you talk about sovereignty now is out of the place. We are not talking about what Trump is coming to do in Nigeria or whether he has interest in the oil or whatever. But what happens here is that he is coming to help Nigeria, and if care is not taken, what happened in Venezuela is still going to reoccur in Nigeria. So I think this should serve as a warning sign for Nigerian government to, utilize the momentum and do what has or needed to be done for the country, so that this whole incident won't happen again.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Ifoma. Now, also joining us again, Mr. Chidi, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
All right. So the question I really wanted to ask from you is, with what is going on in the United States, and, people are also saying, ADC as well is also telling the Nigerian government that they should take lessons from this so that we do not have a repetition of this. And it is really as a result of Venezuela being a weakened state, and then the United States also seeing a reason to come and to intervene. We saw something similar to that last year where we had airstrikes in Nigeria. Do you see this happening in Nigeria anytime soon?
All right, thank you for the question. ADC spokesperson was saying something about the Nigerian president speaking up about what is going on. I think that is kind of a setup. That's not the kind of conversation we should be having in Nigeria, because we have our own issues. It's not like we should ignore what's happening in international space, but they should focus on our issues, which is insecurity. That's one. Two is that this president of Nigeria is not in a position to start commenting on the issue in Venezuela, because he himself has an outstanding feud between him and Donald Trump, which is not even cool yet. So it's not reasonable for him to start trying to stir up any kind of conversation that will bring attention back to Nigeria and all that. So in that light, I think we should first of all focus on our own issues here, and not use the activities happening in international space as some kind of let's say a weapon to fight ourselves here.
Oh, right. Thank
Also,
you. All right. No, you can proceed if you want to.
Okay, I wanted to say something about what the whole activity of extracting a president, a sitting president. I think the United States is setting a bad example to the rest of the world. It's not as if this has not been happening before now, but when they do this, is it okay for anybody to just wake up and decide to invade any country or perform any activity?
Mr. Nedu, are you still there?
We know that most of these politicians, since they are cowboys, you can't say that they are all. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now better.
All right. I don't know where I was tough, but let me just continue.
Okay.
So I think we shouldn't just wake up and take actions that will affect other countries without ignoring international law and all that. So where is the line now? Does it mean anybody can do it, or does it mean whoever has military might over another country can just wake up any morning and decide to just take over their country? So I think that is not a good example, in as much as there are crimes leveled against Maduro, but there are also things that can be said for other leaders. So I believe this is economically motivated, politically motivated. This is not for the good of the people. Wow. You can't sell that and expect us to buy it. It's not for the good of the people. They have their reasons for doing it, and they shouldn't do that, continue with that, because when they do that, even our own Nigerian politicians, we can copy bad example very easily. Before you know it, they'll start extracting people anyhow. I'm telling you the truth. So,
all right, well, you know something very striking, Mr. Nedu, and I'm also going to ask the question too. All right, sorry, I'm speaking when I'm done. So what I wanted to ask to you, Genevieve, and to just from what Mr. Nidu said, right, is the fact that when this happened, a lot of Venezuelans were seen in the streets rejoicing and they were dancing, and we saw those videos. And Mr. Nidu is saying now that that is a bad example that the United States is setting for other nations. Now coming down to Nigeria as well. But before that, I also want you to give your take on just the extraction of the Venezuelan president, what you think about that, and the reaction of the Venezuelans.
Okay, I'll start with the reactions of the Venezuelans.
Okay.
Of course, they are supposed to be happy. I mean, thank you to Mr. Oladimeji for explaining the little history about the Venezuelan president and everything. And I found out that if I was those people, I would be so much excited, because being in stagnation, being caged, being closed up for a long time, and all of a sudden, even the lightest or smallest freedom you get, you'll be very, very happy. Despite you might not even have the time to think about, oh, okay, this freedom, are there any implications to the freedom, coming to what Mr. Chinedu is saying about it setting a bad example. The Venezuelan citizens are not going to think about that. They're going to think about, oh, this tyranny has stopped. I have freedom, no more killings. They are going to be happy. They are going to be okay. So them being happy is very, very much justified. But on the context of Donald Trump coming in and taking them, that is something I really don't understand. I mean, I'm not very politically inclined, but in my layman understanding, I kind of feel that it's very, very tricky. Somehow, I mean, it has two sides to it. I have this question: how much power does he have to come and take over Venezuela country, the president? How much power does he have? But with all the crimes that is happening, I think it's justified for him to come over.
All right, Genevieve, and I'm coming to you back, Mr. Oladimeji. Now, a lot of things has happened, and just as though the entire world is paying attention to what is happening in Venezuela. But there are some things that you mentioned, really, but what lessons do you think that other African countries can take from what is happening in Venezuela and the involvement of the United States?
Thank you very much, Sharon. Let me quickly react to some of the lexicals that were used by Mr. Chinedu and Ifoma. First, Maduro was not adopted. You cannot adopt an illegal person. It's illegal. Illegally occupying that office. So if you was removed, you have removed illegality. And in geopolitics around the world, there is something we call the comparative advantage, which every nation would there. So there is no nation of the world that would not, either they are coming to your aid for economic rescue or for material rescue, or for human rescue. There is always an underlying political interest and economic interest for every nation that indulges or goes into geopolitical diplomatic arrangement or understanding. All right. So for Maduro, who snatched office and who had plunged the nation into abject poverty and almost draconian in its nature, in its management and leadership, rendering people to complete silence and non-existence under feudalism. Its removal is justified under moral platform. And in the world, you would have leaders, countries who have always been described as the power block, playing out these roles. So it is geopolitics. It is not out of the ordinary for situations like this. You are a Nigerian, I am a Nigerian, we cannot actually speak or react the way, or understand or gauge the feelings of the Venezuelans. For the Venezuelans and to the Venezuelans, they are liberated, they are free of Maduro, who has constantly and insistently been killing them and been, arresting and locking up dissecting voices and opposition. So that is that about that. Speaking about what lessons African nations need to learn from this, I think African nations who, are very close in activity with Venezuela and the likes of Colombia are the ones who should be afraid right now and who should bring themselves to redress. Because if not, eventually the treatment that was melted to Maduro will be melted to them. It is just a matter of time. Just like the popular saying, the evil that is done by man to man shall be redressed, certainly now, if not now, certainly later. If not by man, then certainly by the Olodumare. So something must be done when evil perpetuates itself upon humans. So whatever has happened to Maduro is on Maduro. And I'm going to insist that in Nigeria, our situation is almost completely similar to that of Venezuela. Talking about polluted economy, talking about illegality occupying office, and talking about drug-related issues by leaders who have, forcefully enforced themselves upon the people. So Nigeria and some other African countries who share this similarity with Venezuela need to draw themselves back and call for redress, lest this kind of treatment is melted.
All right. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Oladimeji. Now, finally, on your take on this, what do you think as just concerning Nigeria that they can learn from this? Because what I asked him was for the African president, do you see a similarity like what Mr. Oladimeji said in what's happening in Venezuela and what is happening in Nigeria? And if you do, this question is directed to Ifoma, what do you think should be the take-home lessons for the Nigerian government?
Okay, I think Mr. Oladimeji just kind of said everything. This whole thing that happened in Venezuela, I think every country should have to redress, sit back, and talk about how better to govern their citizens. Now, let me tell you something. There was something that Mr. Chidi said that this is what happened in Venezuela is actually an overreach. It sets a terrible precedent, and yeah, I understand the fact that it sets a terrible precedent. But at the same time, when you have citizens enjoying good governance, when you have voice of the dissent not being silenced, when you have the media fully exercising their rights as the media, you won't have any internal invasion. I don't know if you understand that and if you can agree with me. And to be honest with you, like I said earlier, this is more like a warning sign for every country, especially Nigeria. Nigeria have gotten to that extent whereby most Nigerians, including me, I'm inviting Trump to come and assist Nigerians. You know about the incessant killings of Christians, the genocide, and how the government have been consistently denying that it's not a genocide attack. You know about the illegalities going on in Nigeria, how EFCC will dust your book so long as you're not in a certain party called APC. You know how the double standard in Nigeria. You know exactly all these leadership crackdowns and failure. So it should set a precedent for other countries to emulate, sit up and address their issues in the country. You know about the tax law, and you know about how the president is busy jetting off to another country. I just realized that it's not even Europe that he is, that he's currently in France.
Yeah,
and from France, he's sending messages to Nigerians that are being attacked on a daily basis to wish them Happy New Year. How uncanny is that? How can a president of a country be sending New Year message to a country that is bleeding? It is so uncanny. It is, for me, I don't really know how some of these people reason. I don't even know who is giving them the mind. I don't really know, Sharon, but I don't want to get worked up. But I'm going to say this lastly. What happened in Venezuela shows us that, sovereignty today is defended less by borders and armies, but more by legitimacy, accountability, and trust between the government and its people. And when you don't have any of this is how you invite other people to come and help you and address the issues in your country. That's all I have to say.
Well said, Ifoma. Thank you for that contribution. Now to you, Mr. Nedu, let's get your final take as well on what is going on. Do you see this being replicated in other countries? Because we're also seeing from the Colombia president, he sent a message to the United States president asking him to come get him, even going as far as calling him a coward. But let's get your take on that.
All right, thank you, Sharon. I heard what my co-guests have to say about this, and they have very interesting opinions. But I need to come in here and say that when it comes to legitimacy, most times we narrow it down to Africans. Like, it's only African leaders that are not legitimately elected. There are many systematic, electoral malpractices that go on in every part of the world. Even some leaders, let's say the North Korean leader who has been there for so long, he has been facing all kind of stuff against his people. Nobody has come to pick him up. This is a matter of interest. You understand? We had the same thing with Gaddafi, and we know how they painted him bad, like he's the devil and all that. Whenever there is interest in your nation, and it's not like I'm supporting whatever these countries are doing, especially African countries, West Africa, and those leaders who we see as not legitimate. The thing is, they are the reason why these things are happening. They give room for it.
Yes. Because
if they are doing what they are supposed to do, this wouldn't have happened. But nevertheless, we also have to acknowledge the fact that it is happening because of the interest that these Western countries have in these areas where they always attack.
Oh, right.
This is kind of replicating what is going on between France and West Africa. They have interest here, and when these countries started, trying to be sovereign on their own, they started looking for backyard way to enter.
No different narratives.
It's similar because America has been benefiting from Venezuela's oil over the years. As a matter of fact, they are the major suppliers.
You know why there are two different scenarios? Because one is talking about narcotic and the oppression of its people. One is foreign influence over a people who are calling for liberation. So there are two different narratives. One is about narcotic and the people who, and the person who is, pressing down on its people, and the other is about a foreign, imperialist
can you compare
efforts on a sovereign nation. So there are two different scenarios and narratives. But I understand you.
Can you compare the narcotics activity going on in Mexico to that?
It's been forever since the lefties have. It's been forever since
they not picked up the Mexican president.
Can you hear me?
Before now, there are countries that have issues that affect America directly. You understand?
Can you hear me? Yeah. If you can hear me, I'm not disputing your take of interest, but there are two different narratives. I will continue to insist on that. Look, picking up people is subjective. All right. It's not just that you go to a country. Like if Omar said, in fact, he was sourcing. When you do not protect your people, your economy, your security, then your sovereignty is gone. Then it is beholden on the superpowers and the bloc to bring about the change. That is why there is a United Nations. That's why we have power blocks who step in to act, especially when you internally oppress and incessantly kill your people. It's different from the French situation and trying to get on the lithium, on the gold and what have you, the resources that countries in Africa, particularly in West Africa, hold. That's a different situation entirely.
All right.
Well, let me give my closing remarks.
Okay, thank you.
Whenever there's a target on any leader's head, there are always going to be reasons, because none of them have a clean sheet. There are going to be reasons. They must have done something in the past that to be the reason. But what I'm saying in essence is, all those leaders, they all have what they have done that are against both their citizens and humanity. Most of them have been doing this for years, but nobody has touched them. So if we start picking up people that have really committed crime against their people, Maduro is not going to be in the first tens that will be picked up. You understand? So that was my point.
All right.
And then the activity of America, they did it on their own. So it was not, they didn't go through the United Nations or anything.
That's untrue. The process was, there were committee of nations that agreed to this. That's untrue.
But the nations did not agree now. The nations were condemning what they are. But
America will not do that.
Wow. All right. Now, we have a lot of takes. I would have to have yours as we conclude on this story.
Yeah, I'm just hearing what Mr. Chinedu said. There's a place I read that the Russians were saying that this is an action of an armed aggression. They titled it as an armed aggression, that they condemned the US action. So many, the UN and countries are also questioning it.
That's the interest.
That's what?
That's the interest. China and Russia are against it because it is China and Russia has been the ones supplying Venezuela weaponry to stand against the United Nations and America for a very long time, over 40 years.
Exactly.
Why are they standing over the? Why are they?
It is the geopolitics. It's the geopolitics.
But at the end of the day, we can come together to say. At the end of the day, we can come together to say it's 50-50.
They are protecting themselves against the United States if they don't feel there's any threat coming to them.
Who are you protesting when you're killing your people? You're missing the people.
Exactly.
I think I'm going to have to step in here. Mr. Ladimeji and Miss Ifoma and Mr. Midu would love to continue this conversation. Can you guys hear me over there?
Let me just say this.
Mr. Kati,
yeah. I'm just going to.
please, can you all hear me here? Miss Ifoma? Miss Ifoma?
Please, I don't know if you can give me the room to.
All right, just in a minute, please. We are way out of time, please.
Yes, I'll just say this quickly. When a tree, yeah.
Okay, I think
all right, I think this is where we're going to call it a wrap on the show. But thank you very much, Ifoma Oji. Thank you, Mr. Oladmeji Oluwafemi. Thank you, Miss Ifoma, for joining us on the conversation, and to you as well, Ms. Genevieve Okeke, for joining us on the conversation, and to our viewers, of course, for doing this with us. Always a pleasure. We thank you for liking, commenting, sharing. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please endeavor to do so, and follow us across all media at Active Citizens. You can find me as well across all media at Sharon and Chuku. Till we'll come your way later today for our Day Hot. Do have a pleasant morning.